Welcome to You Hear Big Girls Attack on Titan podcast. I'm Mom Taku.
And I'm Luna. Welcome to our Chapter 114 podcast. The latest chapter featured Zeke's childhood, showing us how he became the man he is today. Moreover, we also found out what his plans are for the Eldian race. Have all the secrets been revealed? Today we are joined by two guests to help answer that question and more.
Since the chapter polls feature heavily in our discussions, it's long overdue for us to get the gang together for the podcast. So with that in mind, we're happy to welcome Kasch, who joined the poll team in 2017, and erensjaegerbombs, also known as Heidi, who joined us in 2018. Welcome to you both.
Hi, I'm Kasch, also known as kaschy on Tumblr and Druidic Tablespoon on Reddit. I'm a fan artist who's been interested in SNK since season 1, but I began actively participating in fandom in 2016, and I've been working on the poll since chapter 95. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm Heidi. As Mom Taku said, I'm erensjaegerbombs on Tumblr. I've been a fan of this series since season 1. Generally, I'm best known for making graphics or writing meta. I was asked to come help with the polls early last year, and it's been a joy working on them. I'm glad to be here today. Thank you.
And Heidi has also set up her own episode poll team since joining the chapter poll team. I hope we'll be seeing a return of that once Return to Shiganshina starts airing.
Yeah, we plan on doing more. It was a lot of fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun. So
Yeah, I agree. So I'm happy we'll be coming back. The continuation of the anime is still 2 months away, so we'll have to wait a bit to see our favorite characters return to the small screen. Luckily, Mom Taku got to enjoy her favorite character in manga form this chapter, as Zeke was featured front and center. I'd like to start by asking our guests, was this chapter a home run or a foul ball? What do you think, Kasch?
I love this chapter. I'm a big Warrior fan regardless, and I know that Zeke's kind of gone off on his own, obviously, is probably the main antagonist, but we needed this backstory so badly on him because everything he's been up to at this point has been such a mystery, and now that we finally have an idea of where he's coming from, what his goal is, it feels good. I really liked it. Also, tiny warrior babies in the single panel was my favorite.
Totally worth it because of that. What about you, Heidi?
I was very thrilled with this chapter. When we got the cliffhanger in 113, I figured this was what was coming, and I was really looking forward to it, to know what motivates Zeke, what drives him, and hopefully what his end goal was. And we got all of that in this chapter. My empathy points for Zeke went up like 1,000,000,000. I already like his character a lot anyway, so now I just feel really bad for him. But the chapter also kind of made me feel a little better about what Eren's probably going to do by the end of the story. So that gave me a bit more hope. So I was happy with this chapter.
Okay, now I'm a little bit curious. So what do you think Eren is going to do by the end of the story, and why does it make you feel better?
Since the big reveal is that the founding Titan can alter Eldian DNA, my theory right now is that most likely there's a way to take away the, I don't know, biological component or whatever it is that allows Eldians to access paths or become Titans. Maybe Eren can think of a way, or maybe it'll end up being Zeke if he gets his mind changed or anything like that, that they can just take away that component from Eldians so that they can just be like normal people again.
So without having to sterilize everyone.
Yes, ideally.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed for a somewhat happy ending.
So what about you, Luna? What did you think?
I'm kind of in the middle about this chapter because I did appreciate seeing Zeke's backstory and I did really empathize with him when he was a child. But for me, it doesn't make up, all his wrongdoings as an adult. And quite frankly, I do have some issues with, his grand scheme and the way he came to it and the way he plans to execute it. I'm not very sure how I feel about that. And I'm a bit underwhelmed with that part of the chapter. Where do you stand on this, Mom Taku?
I'm always glad that I have a few days to process the chapter because when I first got it, like Heidi, I knew it was going to be the Zeke reveal, and I was a little anxious about that because he's a character that I have unashamedly enjoyed hating. I absolutely have detested him. And I didn't want to change that because loving to hate a character is such a unique thrill. So I'm glad I had a few days to process this. I still hate Zeke. I still can't stand him. His arrogance, his lack of remorse. I mean, the sad childhood flashback really doesn't affect how I feel about modern day Zeke. But I will say that, yeah, it affected me. Like, I think especially where the chapter kicked off, that very first scene of Zeke, when we see them in Liberio on the tower overlooking the city. You see who Zeke was when he was born. He's timid, he's shy, he's clutching his father's chest. The only time he perked up is when the older gentleman appeared, and you see Zeke just like shoot up and smile at him and be greeted with a bucket of water in the face. And I mean, I am not a monster. I was totally moved by that. I was moved by a lot of things about Zeke, but I'm not a fan. Still, I can pity him now, and it's way less fun to hate him now. I enjoyed the chapter, but I hope we're done with Zeke's backstory now and we move into the rest of the story.
This chapter right now it's still like ranked highly, still the most people gave it a 5 out of 5. But if we look at previous 2 chapters, 113 was rated, let's see, a 4.48 out of 5. And this one is, with all the votes we have so far, 4.28 out of 5. Considering it's a closing chapter, were you expecting a higher ranking based on what was revealed?
I think with Zeke being so controversial as a character, there's going to be a lot of people who hate this chapter no matter what, just because Zeke is in it.
I don't know if that's the reason why, because I've seen most people kind of empathizing with Zeke, but I think the main gripe people have is actually the reveal of the grand master plan.
Yeah, I think most people are upset that it's something that either was so obvious we didn't think it was going to be the case, or it's just kind of more simple than we expected. I know when I read the spoilers before the chapter came out, I just saw sterilization and I'm like, are you serious? That's it?
Yeah,
'Cause I
same.
was expecting something, but I'm at peace with it now, so it's kind of whatever. But I was expecting something a lot more, I don't know, grandiose.
I think a lot of us were, because my first reaction when we figured out that Zeke was going to be committing genocide through eugenics was like, Zeke's a child-free man. He just hates kids, obviously, and immediately making memes and just making fun of it because it seems silly. But I think after reading the chapter, seeing, like, I mean, there's so much hate, self-hatred for themselves, and so much this
Mhm.
like repeated thematic element of I wish I was never born throughout the whole series from a lot of the different characters, the self-hatred that they have. It makes sense, at least from Zeke's perspective.
Yeah, after actually reading the chapter and seeing how he was treated growing up, how he was, how people interacted with him, I kind of don't blame him for coming to this conclusion that it's maybe not better to be alive at all. The problem is where he oversteps his boundaries and decides that should be the fate for every single living Eldian.
I think Luna knows how I felt about it because the question we asked in the poll, how do you feel about the reveal of Zeke's plan? The worst option was I stayed up all night wallowing in my disappointment, which was a call out to me because I think she caught me on Andrew Allstar's Discord server complaining about it at 3 a.m. But again, I've had some time, I've processed. And really, the idea, I mean, the problem is Titan inheritance, right? There are 9 Titans who are shifters who can wreak havoc with the rest of their race, whether it's by killing them or spinal fluid. The idea of stopping that, and the only way to stop that is not to have babies. If they could stop that for 13 years, or however long it takes for the current generation of Titans to die out, it's not a terrible plan.
But how do you change them back then? I don't think it's a temporary fix.
I agree. But I don't actually hate it anymore. There's 2 solutions. There's rewrite genetics so that they're no longer Titans, or let the Titans die out. And that's really the 2 choices. I guess the third one being learn to get along, which apparently is not a choice.
Yeah, my issue with the learn to get along one is that you still have these 9 Titans that can transfer to Eldian babies. So you're forever condemning at least 9 kids at any given time to die within 13 years, and like there's no freedom in that, really.
So I thought about that a little bit. And the Titans only transfer to babies if a Titan unexpectedly dies, right? If he cannot transfer his Titan powers.
Mhm.
So, well, that's also one thing that I wonder about the plan, because Zeke says in 100 years all the aliens should have died out, but when will the Titans die out? Is that within 13 years if there's like no more babies to pass on the Titans to, or will then the Titan powers shift to adults automatically if he manages to, alter the reproductive system of the Eldians? B, people could pass on the Titan powers to like the elderly. You can have like some 85-year-old person inherit the Titan and then just keep on passing it on, because why not? You don't have to give it to young viral people anymore. They're not viable weapons anymore, weapons of war. They've been outclassed by actual weapons of war. So they don't really serve a purpose in the world. They're not like the worst danger in this world either. I think they could do something to make sure that the alien race is no longer a threat and they could kind of coexist with the rest of the world.
Yeah,
That'd
that's
be, yeah.
possible.
It's a very underwhelming ending for the series,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
So it probably won't happen, but
One of my things also with that, though, is too, is that Eldians are kind of at the mercy of other people. For example, Marley with their syringes. You know, if they want to transform an Eldian
yeah,
into a Titan, that option is there, and Eldian doesn't really has no way to prevent it if they're
yeah.
forced into it or whatever.
Biological warfare.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of issues with it, which is why I think it's best if the component is just gone altogether. But we'll see where Isayama takes it.
On the one hand, I want the cycle to be broken, but on the other hand, maybe this is just something that the world needs to accept. Like that this is just a very sad trait the aliens have, and 13 people of the alien race will always be affected by this curse, but maybe they can somehow move forward from this.
But then we also see, like, with how much prejudice is built up already in their society regarding, like,
Yeah.
Xaver's wife, Reiner's parents, there's a lot to overcome. And then keeping those 9 Titans around is, like, basically keeping 9 weapons of mass destruction at large in the world. I can't see the series ending with the Titans still being usable. Like, I'm definitely in the camp that by the end of the series, there's going to be maybe they'll use paths to remove the Titan component completely from the Eldians.
I mean, that's the hope. And I think, Eren's plan all along, especially was it chapter 107? Was that the chapter with the train flashback? He's in agreement with Zeke that he does not want to pass this power on to anyone. So I can see where Zeke and Eren at least agree on that one thing. Titan inheritance needs to stop. It absolutely needs to stop. That's uniting them at this point. So how they plan on stopping it, though, is what we need to find out. Well, we know how Zeke plans on it. I can't wait to see what Eren is planning.
Eren definitely wouldn't approve with this mass sterilization thing. I just can't believe that for a second he'd do such a 180 on his character. That he would suddenly think, oh, well, we should just kill all of our own people when he's been fighting against people who want to kill them this whole time. I would feel very betrayed.
Yeah. And in the poll, we asked that. We asked the question, does Eren agree with this plan? And that's one area where, as a fandom, we're completely united. I think at this point, 77% say no way. There's no way he agrees with this. And the remaining 20% say, I'm not sure. So, I mean, combining those numbers, that's like 95% of us that find it unfathomable that Eren would be okay with this.
I think it's very certain that they have different ideas. I don't know if you saw the post on Reddit, but like the panel where Zeke remembers Eren in his like hobo form, and he's like, Eren, you're the only one who understands. And then at the bottom, there's a panel with like an open space on the left side and like the forest on the other side.
Yeah, someone pointed that out on Tumblr too. They drew a line, and Zeke's facing the way towards less trees, and Eren's facing the way towards more trees.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a great catch.
So that bottom panel probably represents the Eldian race, where Zeke wants to terminate them and Eren wants to see the Eldians flourish, but at the cost of the rest of the world, by the way things are looking now. Awkward silence. I was waiting for Heidi to say how good of a boy Eren is, and he would never do that.
Eren is a good boy, and he would never do that.
Do you know that panel where Xaver is like, you did nothing wrong. You're a smart, good boy. Like, I want to take that and turn it into a meme and drop Eren's face on it. There's so many people who are like, you did nothing wrong. You're a smart, good boy.
Honestly, you could use that for like 90% of the characters.
You could. Reiner, everybody. Like, that is perfect. That is the fandom. And Zeke in that panel is the favorite character. Whomever it is, he did nothing wrong.
I just see Luna putting like Falco in there.
Falco did nothing wrong ever in his life.
Precious boy.
He is. He's my cinnamon bun. Leave him alone.
He is a good boy. Well, let's get into the chapter in earnest. So like we said, the story starts off with Zeke's childhood and the mixed bag of problems that was. One thing we asked in the poll was whether or not this chapter affected your feelings about certain characters, and Grisha Yeager took a huge hit. While he was never, I think, favorably viewed in the fandom before, now a huge percentage of the fandom views him as a total and complete monster. What did you guys think about Zeke's childhood with his parents? Any redeeming qualities there or no?
Quite frankly, I was rather shocked at just how abysmal Grisha was as a parent. Like, we knew he wasn't a great parent, but I had no idea that he was this bad. The way he expressed his disappointment at Zeke, like, not even, like, at least when he was in training, he averted his face, but then at the dining room table, he was, like, looking at him with disgust almost. And then poor Zeke was, when he cried in his bed, that's when my heart broke for Zeke, like, for baby Zeke. I felt so terribly bad for him. And I will say, although Dina doesn't seem to be a great parent in this, at least she talked Grisha down. She was like, no, it's not that bad. We have other options. Zeke was trying his best. Isn't that good enough? And Grisha was just like, no, everything's ruined now. Our son sucks.
Yeah, I think Grisha kind of exemplifies the type of parents who put a lot of pressure on their kids to be a certain way and to believe certain things and don't give that kid any room for any kind of leeway or other ideas of their own. And I've had friends who have dealt with parents like that, so it kind of touched me emotionally because most kids don't come out of those situations okay. There's just a lot of pressure you have to live under, and Zeke clearly wanted to make his parents proud of him. Whenever they praised him, you can see a little smile on his face. When they show the disappointment, he starts crying. That affected me because it's a very real situation, and I think Grisha did better with Eren later on, but with Zeke, he was just an absolute disaster of a parent.
Yeah, I agree, Heidi. Anyone who has children knows that their instinct is to want to please you. They want to live up to your expectations, whatever those expectations are. And, we see Zeke trying. But I think what happens is it creates a cycle where Grisha didn't realize that Zeke wasn't on board. Zeke was saying the right words, he was doing the right things. Grisha probably thought that they were all as a family working towards the same thing. And it's just, he wasn't paying enough attention. He wasn't looking closely at his son to realize that's not the case. That is not what his son wanted in life. And, while it does make Grisha a bad parent, I feel like it makes him a relatable one. And I know everyone's talking about that dining room scene where he screams at his kid. Again, like, I don't know. It's pretty human to me. I found that sort of relatable.
Yeah, as I say, I've experienced the having my dad yell at me at the dinner table experience, so I get that one.
Yeah. And as a parent, it happens. We're not perfect. We screw up. And I'm not justifying Grisha Jaeger. He himself admits to being a horrible parent. He takes all the blame for this situation, which is a positive in my book.
Hmm.
But the damage that he and Dinah did is just horrible. It's horrible. It was a horrible chapter. I mean, literally reading this chapter, it was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, how horrible could this kid's life get? Anything, Kasch?
I think the only thing that I could bring up is that while he had Grisha and Dina as parents that weren't obviously the most supportive and everything that we've already talked about, I do think that it's good that he at least had his grandparents who were there for him. Like, he did have people that loved him in his life and were there to support him. And I don't want to go into Xaver yet because I think we're going to talk a lot more about him later, right?
We are, definitely. Well, I wonder, even at his grandparents' house, he was, like, forced to read the books about the true Eldian history, right?
I have a feeling that's pretty much every Eldian.
Hmm.
I was going to say, I think in the internment zone in Liberia, that's just Eldian life. Like, the kids have to learn their history, and they're going to talk about and read the cat book next time. There was good things about it.
At least he was able to read, like, normal children's book at his grandparents' place, but I feel like at both houses he would get some sort of indoctrination.
But don't you think too that the grandparents realized that maybe Grisha and Dinah were involved with something suspicious? I mean, Grandpa Yeager has probably known his entire life that Grisha had these feelings of anger and resentment. I think that they were talking to Zeke in that situation, not indoctrinating him, but just worried, are you learning? Is this, is everything okay at home? I mean, they're just being concerned. I think they were just being concerned grandparents at that point. And yeah, the
Hmm.
mention of the cat book, tomorrow night we'll read the cat book. I mean, that put such a smile on my face.
I think it's good to show that because we see Zeke as modern day Zeke showing affection towards his grandparents, and even Levi uses them as leverage. He says, I'll just send you back home and reveal your plot, and your grandparents are going to bite the dust because of it." And so it seems like it's pretty well known that he does care about his grandparents. So it was nice to see how they interacted when he was a kid.
It definitely humanizes him a lot more versus him just being this manipulative four-dimensional chess player trying to overthrow everything.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of everybody like just chalking him up to be this like infallible genius character that can't mess anything up. And like lately I've noticed frustration among the fandom that, oh, Levi beat him again, or this or that. But he's clearly a human and makes mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he likes to gamble a lot.
Yes.
We like to think he's this incredibly intelligent character who has all his plans, sorted out and is playing 4D chess with everyone. But in the meantime, he's also just taking a lot of chances and just got really lucky sometimes. And sometimes also he didn't get so lucky, like at the end of the Return to Shiganshina.
Even the fact that he was presented as such an unremarkable cadet was very humanizing. I mean, he was the Reiner group, right? He was always behind. He was struggling to keep up.
I will say, in Reiner's defense, I mean, like, Baby Reiner at least did better than a lot of the other cadets. Zeke was going to get thrown out, in like the prelims, basically. And there was a part earlier, I think, I don't want to like jump ahead too much, but we were talking a little bit earlier about this, and I don't think Zeke is necessarily physically that much weaker. I think it was his resolve. Like, he wanted to make his parents proud, but he, at heart, he did not want to be a warrior. He didn't want to do all that. The biggest joy that he had was when Xaver said that he could be a baseball player. At least to me, when I was reading the chapter, that's what it looked like. He was so excited about that he had a talent, something that he was good at, that wasn't just being a warrior or trying to be a warrior.
He's able to use those baseball skills pretty efficiently now.
Yeah, I'm
combining business and pleasure. So in a childhood fist fight, Reiner would still beat Zeke.
Well, obviously that he got his ass kicked in right before Return to Shiganshina, so maybe back then, if they'd both been the same size, same age.
I have to admit, every time that someone compares Zeke to Reiner, a little bit of my soul dies.
It's interesting how Luna pointed out that Zeke's kind of seems like a bit of a gambler, because that's something we know about Urban's character. So that's kind of an interesting parallel.
Oh,
when
great.
You consider, when you consider the Return to Shiganshina arc. I didn't want to say anything.
I love you for that, Heidi. Thank you.
A little part of my soul died.
In the Return to Shiganshina arc, they're kind of, Erwin and Zeke are kind of shown as the opposing forces at that point, and if they're both kind of gambling characters, that makes it a little more interesting when you backread it.
It's true. They're both considered like the 4D chess guys, right? And I will say this, that at least during Return to Shiganshina, while it was largely a draw, I do think the Survey Corps, Erwin's plan won. Although it's, one of those Pyrrhic victories, like it always is in this manga. Nobody ever actually wins anything. It's always at such huge cost and expense that it's impossible to call anything a victory at this point. What I thought was interesting about Zeke being so unremarkable as a cadet, whether it was because of his motivation or because he was just smaller than the other kids, is that that's what made Xaver notice him. Xaver sees this kid struggling, and I mean, you could call it coincidence, but I have to believe the scene where he first meets Zeke and tosses the baseball to him, it does seem like it was not a coincidence. That was Xaver saw this kid and immediately decided to get to know him.
Well, I'm on board with the Xaver was working with Kruger plan theory or whatever. So I kind of think maybe it was premeditated, but I do think he did feel a personal connection to Zeke once he got to know him.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Heidi on this one. There's just too many hints thrown out through this chapter. Like even the owl was mentioned again. The moment where where Zeke rats his parents out, we see that figure standing in the doorway, which is possibly Kruger. It seems highly likely that they were working together. That probably Kruger kind of hinted at Xaver to keep an eye on Zeke, probably because of like the backstory with his son, that he felt some sort of connection towards Zeke that he maybe didn't anticipate beforehand.
Yeah, I think that maybe it's possible to plan only went as far as getting Grisha over to Paradis, so he could become the Attack Titan. And then after that, whatever Xaver and Zeke might have had was probably genuine.
Yeah. Something that I read, and I don't remember who said it, but I didn't come up with this myself, was that the reason that Xaver kind of encouraged Zeke to rat his parents out wasn't so much for Zeke's self-preservation, but more so because he told Xaver that the Marleyan military was onto the owl, that they were about to find him out, and that would also put Xaver at risk
Yes.
and the entire plan. So that was probably why he encouraged Zeke to betray his parents and sell them out, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't get this warm paternal feeling from Tom Xaver. I thought he was very manipulative and almost in a grooming kind of way. Not that there was like anything else he wanted from Zeke, but it just made me very uncomfortable. The whole relationship seemed very inappropriate. And what do you think about that?
It seemed orchestrated to me. Like there was a lot of
Yep.
orchestration in how it happened. But we did poll the fandom on that. Do you think Xaver is a good person? And granted, this was, a day or two after the chapter was released, but so far, 66% do think that he was a good person. And another 20% are like, I don't know, something might be going on here. So, it's hard to trust anyone in this manga when you see a character smiling and being friendly, and the moment where he looks at Zeke and says, well, this is because we're both good people, immediately alarm bells start going off. But I do believe he truly cared about Zeke. I do think he was manipulating things, but I think the concern was genuine.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, especially after the flashback to his own wife and his son after they died, I think he was heavily projecting onto Zeke as like a surrogate child, pretty much. But I also agree too that he's fishy. There's just too much going on that he could possibly be involved with. I'm not totally sold on the Kruger and Xaver like knowing each other, or maybe they had a past history, but after Xaver became a warrior, that maybe that was strained. I'm not sure at this point, but I do think that there's something else going on, but I'm not sure when or if we're ever going to get the answers to that.
I feel like we have to get more answers about Xaver. I think there's just enough about his story that doesn't quite add up. The fact that he was able to hide his Eldian status for so long, how a middle-aged man became the Beast Titan. There's a lot there that
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
also something I was wondering
yes.
about. Like, how do you have a family, live in Marley, and then all of a sudden you're like this exemplary Eldian who gets to inherit the Beast Titan? Like, where are all your records? Like, he must have faked that real good. And I think Kruger mentioned that he was working together with someone who helped him forge his records, right? And didn't he mention
Yes.
also a Titan researcher?
Yep.
I mean, that's why I definitely think maybe they could have had a connection in the past because of those things. I mean, we've had these breadcrumbs being dropped since, like chapter 89 or whatever. It's kind of curious that he didn't mention more about it in this chapter. I don't know. I'm not 100% sold that they're still in cahoots together at this point. Unless the fact that Zeke wasn't able to become a warrior was the tipping point for this plan with Grisha.
We asked in the poll, do you think Xaver was working with Kruger? And that's the question that is most hotly, I mean, that's a 50 split at this point. I've been watching the numbers on that one as it creeps back and forth between the yeses and the nos, and clearly something the fandom is thinking about. We like Xaver. We are glad that Zeke had him in his life, but yeah, we're just at this point, we're the ones that are groomed just to sort of side eye and be suspicious of everything, I think.
Yeah. But it's a nice, almost 50-50 split, right?
Right there.
I'm curious to see how things will turn out. By the way, did you guys guess correctly last chapter during the poll? We also asked if Xaver was the Beast Titan or not. What did you guys answer?
I thought he was.
I did too. His armband is a different color.
Yeah, it was colored in, so I assumed it was the red color.
Yeah, I thought that he was definitely he was a Titan shifter, but I wasn't sure if he was the Beast Titan or not.
I actually am in the very sad minority of people who did not think he was the Beast Titan, and I based that primarily on how he looked. I just thought he didn't look like one of the fit buff warrior types. I thought maybe, he was in a warrior family, but also it was the closing scene in chapter 113 where he kind of held out the hope of Zeke becoming a pitcher. You want to be a pitcher when you grow up. You want to play baseball. To me, if Xaver was the Beast Titan, that seemed really cruel to me. And I wanted to like Xaver. I wanted to think highly of him. So I kind of was like hedging my bets here thinking, no, let's just say he was a nice guy in Zeke's life who had different aspirations for him. Somebody that Zeke loved that was taken from him tragically and that sent Zeke into this dark path. So I went beyond the story in this moment and kind of came up with my own headcanon that, of course, I was wrong. So I accept it.
It's a nice thought, though.
Yeah, I wanted him to be, I wanted a nice, my intentions were good. I wanted him to be a nice guy who, wanted Zeke to have autonomy. And I'm not sure that I have that anymore since Zeke did end up taking his power and heading down this path.
It makes it even a little bit more morbid because if he was working with Kruger throughout all this, I mean, he knew Zeke was going to be inheriting a Titan. So he's like trying to instill this hope in him. And at the same time, Zeke is just going to take a Titan and then, pass away in 13 years. There's no way he'll be able to want to be a pitcher or anything else.
The fact that he was, discouraged it so heavily in the beginning, we're both nice people. You don't want to do this. You don't want my power. And then, when the moment comes where Zeke says, I'll take it, I'm going to do this, Xaver's just silent. We don't see what Xaver says after that, whether it was encouraging or discouraging at that point.
Yeah, I always thought he would be like a family friend to the Jaegers and, somebody who would like be very familiar with Zeke, but also his parents and kind of, raise him more or less after Grisha and Dina were sent off to Utopia. But I kind of wonder, did Dina and Grisha even know who he was? Like, were they completely surprised to see him there when they were like led away in the carriage? Like, who is this stranger with my son?
I wonder. I've been wondering that as well.
Same. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, the Eldians that are the warriors have the red armbands, and I don't know how well known those, individuals are. We can see in the beginning of the Marley chapters, at least with Reiner, that a lot of the people in Liberio know who he is, know that he's the armored Titan. So I wonder if they would have known that Xaver was the beast.
I think so, probably. They're very recognizable, I guess.
And the fact that Zeke was in the warrior program and that this was a warrior, I doubt they were side-eyeing it too much. It probably made sense that the existing warriors would be part of the training for the cadets.
Right. Well, and I don't even know if they really ever saw Xaver with Zeke. I mean, the one time that they were playing, catchball, Zeke comes home and is going to tell Grisha about it. And then Grisha's like, oh, you got home early? Guess we have more time to study. He honestly just didn't show any interest at all in like what Zeke was doing outside of trying to push him to become this warrior that will be able to infiltrate and help bring out their plan. I don't know. This whole chapter makes me really sad for Zeke. He is the worst, but also I'm glad that we had this.
He's now a sympathetic antagonist, which is personally, I like those kind of antagonists the best because they make you kind of think about your own stuff,
Mm-hmm.
The sympathy is definitely there, but was his story bad enough to justify what he's doing? And I think we asked that in the poll. There are so many tragic backstories here. Where does Zeke rank in this? Is it the worst? Does he win the award for childhood misery? Where does he fall in this? And I know I was very firmly in the camp of, yeah, it was bad, but others have had it bad too. And it's certainly not bad enough that it merited destroying his entire race. It's understandable, but it's not justifiable. Do you guys think he had it worse than everybody else in this series?
For me, that's a firm no. Yeah, he had it rough as a child, but he went full Final Fantasy fill in this chapter. Like, let's end all suffering by ending the entire Eldian race. And it's, I don't know, it's crazy to me. I don't sympathize with him at all as an adult. He seems someone who's very mentally ill, but also very narcissistic and someone who's just, it's hard to offer up any sympathy for him. But for him as a child, because he didn't do anything wrong, he didn't, go on a killing spree as a child. He just wanted a solution to all the suffering. Did he come to the best conclusion? No, but I can understand him as a child better. But as an adult, he's done so many things that are absolutely abhorrent.
For me, I'm still, even as an adult, kind of sympathizing with him because it seems to be the only thing that's driving him is this, like, I don't know, kind of pact he made with Xaver to go through with this. And it's, it kind of goes back to what Kenny said way back when, that everybody's a slave to something. So Zeke is basically a slave to this ideal that him and Xaver kind of came up with together. And I just think it's really kind of sad and pitiful. It does not, obviously, of course, merit any of the bad stuff that he's done, and I don't think any of that's forgivable. But I like to think that maybe there's a possible or a possibility that he might be able to redeem himself in some form by the end, or at least like atone for what he's done. But I don't think the story could ever forgive it.
Well, that's true of so many of these characters.
Hmm.
It would be interesting to see if Zeke will come around at the end.
I actually saw this, I guess it was kind of a crack post on Tumblr where he needs to go talk to Historia so she can punch some sense into him like she did with Eren when he was depressed.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I was like, oh, well, we need to get him to Historia ASAP so she can tell him he's not worthless and he can get that in his head. I don't think it'll quite work like that, though.
Well, their ideologies are totally different. I mean, Historia's has been, if there's anyone helpless who needs assistance, she's going to be there for them. And Zeke's ideology being, if there's anyone helpless, they should never have been born in the first place. So I'll just keep it from happening. I'll keep them from
Yep.
ever becoming helpless.
And I think it's interesting because Historia certainly has one of those characters that most people would consider having like the worst backstory of any of the characters because her parents were not winners. And she, was driven to a point where she just wanted to die. That's all she wanted to do. She wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, and she got out of that and decided she wants to save everybody that thinks they're worthless. But Zeke's the opposite and just wants the suffering to end altogether.
Emir's backstory is another one of those that is just incredibly horrifying. There's nothing about Emir's childhood that was
Mhm.
positive. And, she comes up with the ideology to live for yourself, be selfish. Of course, she didn't follow through with that one. She couldn't help trying to help people she cared about. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it was in Ghost Martyr's chapter right up this month. Ghost Martyr talks about how many people in the story have gotten to the point where literally they've kind of stepped to the edge of the cliff and said, I don't want to be alive anymore. We've seen Reiner, Mikasa, Eren, Zeke, Historia, character after character after character, where life is not worth living anymore. And every single one of them have had a change of heart, except for Zeke. They've all managed to step back from the cliff. Reiner by remembering the two children that he cares about. Historia by remembering other people who are unloved. It's wonderful to see all these other characters turning around and focusing on the beauty in life. Zeke is our exception.
Yeah, and that's why, even if it has to happen in the very last chapter, I would like to see him, if he's going to sacrifice himself or if he can't get back from that edge of the cliff, since I kind of think he's been pushed over it anyway, that maybe he can do it in a way that would at least save everybody, but I might be too hopeful there.
Wrong manga.
Yeah, wrong manga.
One thing I wanted to touch on Reddit, Scarlet Moonlight asked us to discuss Grisha's development. She wrote, I don't have a question for the podcast, but I have a request. Would you please discuss Grisha's development? I think this chapter highlights the difference between the Grisha in Liberia and the Grisha who lived in Paradis. And I think that's real interesting too. I feel like we all sort of agree that Grisha did better with Eren. I think what this chapter crystallized for me was just how much better he did. Like, Carla and Eren had no idea what Grisha was doing. He did not involve them in his activities. And clearly he was busy because he figured out who the Reese family was, where they lived, where they were meeting. Grisha worked underground the whole time he was in Paradis, not just writing out his life story, but looking for that founding titan. And I think what's really remarkable for me, it's only when Grisha realized Eren's resolve, when Eren was adamant about joining the Survey Corps. At that point, Grisha said, I'm going to show you what's in the basement. And I feel like he let Eren make up his mind. And at that point, when Eren was adamant, Grisha's time was up. Hearing that, I have a feeling they were going to make the trip to the basement and maybe talk about this situation and maybe wait for Eren to give consent. And it explains to me why tears were literally running down his eyes, why he was in agony having to inject Eren without his permission. I mean, am I the only one that feels this?
Yeah, I generally agree that he did much better with Eren, and I've kind of always been in the Grisha defense camp because I always thought it was kind of obvious that he was a caring and loving man to his son. It's only when Zeke came into the picture where I was kind of like, oh, maybe he wasn't so great. But after this chapter, I definitely agree he did better with Eren, and possibly might not have even wanted to have to inject him at all, but possibly wanted to. I'm not sure, but I don't think he thought about it until Eren actually expressed interest in joining the Survey Corps to see the world outside and not have to be so ignorant. But I think that injecting him was ended up kind of being a last resort and desperate thing for him in the end.
But do you think when he said to Eren early in the series, "When I get home, I'll show you the basement," what do you think that was all about?
I do think he was going to go home or go down and show him the books and explain to him the situation. I think he would have been honest and open with him and to see if it was something Eren was going to agree with or not. I think he would have shown him, but not in such an indoctrinating way like he did with Zeke.
We never saw Grisha talk to Eren in the same way he talked to Zeke at all. Like there was no
Mm-mm.
pushing for fighting for freedom or fighting to get out of these walls. Like it seems like Eren more came up with that ideology himself.
He did. And I think the only thing we get hinted at is that Grisha maybe talks about how the Titans aren't always going to stay outside forever. But other than that, there's no indication he planted any of this thought process into Eren's mind at all. So,
When I first read the series, I remember thinking Eren is we see him as a young child screaming about the Titans, about not being complacent. And I remember thinking that, children don't get these thoughts on their own, that maybe Grisha was indoctrinating him or putting the fear of Titans in him, or this child to have organically become such a, just so hot-headed about the complacency of his society. That's the kind of stuff a kid picks up around the dinner table. That's not something the average 7 to 9 year old comes up with on his own. But I really do think now, after this chapter, that no, that was Eren. Eren from birth, or basically from the moment he could look at that wall, resented it.
a lot of it stems from when Armin showed him that book because he was kind of an aloof child. And you see him kind of just staring off into space, but then Armin comes to him with this book, and that's when he realizes, and he says it, I think, in chapter 73. It's gonna be in the first episode of the anime, but the next anyway, it's coming. But yeah, he tells Armin that, until then it was that moment when he realized that they were like animals living in a cage, and that's when he kind of brought himself to resent the situation he was in and that nobody was doing anything about it.
Okay, wait a minute. So that means that all of this is Armin's fault and not Grisha's?
I mean, obviously, Armin just wanted to go see the outside world. It's just that when Eren was told about the wonders of the outside, that's when he was like resentful that he couldn't go see those things.
I think about too in the Uprising arc, when Eren is suddenly very critical of his father, that his father, caused all these atrocities and killed Historia's sister. And, when all those memories were unlocked, immediately Armin and Mikasa jumped to Grisha's defense. And I feel like if anybody would know Grisha was a monster, it would be them. Mikasa lived with them. She would have seen the interactions. And if Grisha was being cruel to Eren, I'm sure she would have responded to that.
Well, and we see that Grisha treats Mikasa very well too. Eren gets like a flashback of it in one of the Uprising chapters. He showed her a lot of warmth and care, so I think that shows that he was a much more caring person once he got a second chance.
Kasch, did you have anything?
I'm not totally in like the Grisha camp. Like I will say that seeing this chapter, like you can see where he started being so much worse to the development that we saw in like the previous chapters of the manga. I don't know. I just feel like there's something off, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards more agreeing with Kasch on this one. Obviously, he did better with Eren than he did with Zeke. I think he acknowledged the mistakes he made with Zeke, and he definitely didn't want to repeat those. But with Eren, there wasn't really a need to repeat those. He was a very, very different child compared to Zeke.
Yeah, it's true.
That being said, he didn't really give Zeke much of a choice in terms of like forcing him to inherit a Titan, and he did the same thing with Eren. He didn't give Eren a choice in the matter too. He didn't, he had a chance to consult with him. Like, yeah, he was running out of time, but there was no reason to transform or to let Eren eat him in that forest right at that moment. I'm sure he had days, if not weeks left, if not months left even.
I don't know. At that point, the wall had been broached. I mean, Grisha was out of time. If he hadn't done it then, it's possible nobody would have survived.
But he also just inherited the founding Titan as well.
Right. That was his last act as a Titan, was to successfully retrieve the founding Titan. That trip to the basement, that never happened. Luna, do you agree that that was probably when they were going to talk about the Titan power and possibly Eren?
Oh, I think Eren would have accepted it if Grisha had told him about it, and like about Liberio, his past, the truth about the entire world. I think Eren would have jumped at the chance. So I don't think the outcome would have changed, but I would have preferred, Eren knowing, because now he was in the dark for 5 years. That didn't really help either.
It didn't.
If that conversation had happened, it would have been a totally different manga. But it's like he's criticized for pushing his ideals onto the one child, and the other one he kept in the dark, and that ended up being terrible too. In this manga, it really is. There's no winning.
Because it's two extremes. Like either you indoctrinate a child or you keep him completely in the dark. He never had an open dialogue with either of his children.
That I can agree with.
There's like a good middle ground that Grisha refuses to walk.
I can't see him burdening Eren or Carla with this until he had to. I think him carrying this burden alone during all that time in Paradis was probably a kindness to both of them.
I don't know.
I can't see Carla agreeing with the whole thing at all.
Yeah, same.
She was no Dina.
Mm-mm.
No, she's way more feisty.
Actually, I saw someone on Tumblr, I can't remember who it was, pointed out how Carla seemed to be the one who was more likely to impose her views and ideals on Eren than Grisha was, which was kind of a show of how different he parented Eren versus Zeke, because you have that moment where she tells Grisha he needs to tell Eren not to pursue this dream or any of that, and Grisha says, well, you can't tamper a boy's curiosity, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, it was a totally different family dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure also Carla was more concerned with, her son not dying quickly
Yes.
or soon.
Right.
And Grisha probably already planning for a long time to pass on the attack titan to Eren because, he knew everyone in the Survey Corps. Those were the people that actually ventured outside of the worlds. And I don't think he considered any one of them worthy of inheriting the attack titan. So I'm sure he already made peace with himself that his son was going to die 13 years later.
Well, if his son had joined the Survey Corps, he was a goner. I mean, the Survey Corps had a 90% of new recruits were dead within a year.
And Eren would have been one of them had he not inherited the titan.
If my kid was telling me that they were sworn on going into a field that was going to absolutely kill them within the first year, as a 10-year-old or 12-year-old, I mean, giving him the Titan power was actually a guarantee of him living 13 years. I don't think Eren would have lived 13 years in the Survey Corps.
No.
Well, obviously not, because he was dead first time out.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
And once Grisha was aware that this kid was going to join the Survey Corps and be a suicidal idiot, at least he gave him 13 years.
Waiting for Heidi to take offense.
I'm fine. I was just gonna say, all of this kind of begs the question of what was he supposed to do after he got the founding titan? Because I don't think that Kruger ever elaborates on that, at least on screen. I don't remember. It's just you need to go get the founding titan, but then what is he supposed to? Where's he supposed to go with it? What's he supposed to do? Who's he supposed to give it to?
Grisha did know that it was impossible to fight unless that power was taken from the Reese family. So yeah, what happens after that? Except that he did know the attack titan would always seek freedom. Eren wanted freedom. I guess maybe he had to just trust that Eren would wield the power and do what needed to be done next. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, I do agree that Eren would have died if he had not had the power, by the way.
Speaking of dying, should we move on?
Yeah.
There's still one thing I don't really understand about Zeke's plan. Because he says he wants to sterilize everyone, but then in previous chapters he says that they're running out of time. So if there are other nations coming that are going to destroy Paradis and he feels that they're running out of time, why does he feel the need to sterilize everyone?
I think what the deal is the world's coming to Paradis, and it's possible that was part of his plan to kind of expedite that process. But he needs to get to Eren so he can sterilize all of the Eldians, because they aren't just in Paradise in Liberia, they are all over the world. Like Udo came from the Mideast Alliance or whatever. So it's not that they're just condensed to these two spots of the world. They're all over the place. So the only way he can end all of their suffering is to reach out to every single last one.
So probably he will need to cooperate with Eren in some sort of way to do like the magic to their reproductive systems before the World Alliance.
Yeah, before the island is destroyed, they basically need to get this taken care of, is Zeke's logic, I'm assuming.
Does he then assume that they will not survive?
Yeah, that's my question. Is his intention for the islanders to all die because he's taking away their ability to protect themselves?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Basically, if Paradis gets all wiped out, then that part of his plan is good and solid. It's just making it so the rest of the Eldians in the world can't have babies, so no more of the Titan powers get passed on and all of that.
So really, your thinking is that Willie Tyber's speech about, let's make the Paradisians the enemy of the world. You think Zeke's actually on board with that? The worlds assemble, they wipe out Paradis, and then he sterilizes Eldians elsewhere so that they can die off peacefully. Is that what we're thinking is going on?
Something like that. He might not necessarily have been in ties with Willie, but maybe use that to his advantage if he wasn't. Otherwise, then I think it is possible he reached out to them personally. I'm not 100% sure, but
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. There's a lot in this. And I think on my other Discord servers, that's the conversation. Like, okay, wait a second. Wait a second. He wants to be merciful. Let Eldians die. Why bring the world's armies to the shores first? Like, what logic is there? Only explanation I can come up with is either that they're going to use the rumbling to destroy the world's armies to kind of like, buy everybody time, or else they're of the opinion that Paradis can be the scapegoat for everybody else.
I think since Zeke seems to, I guess, kind of use the Eldians' lives as disposable, since he thinks that if they die, that just ends their suffering, and he's fine with that. That he doesn't mind using Paradis as the scapegoat. The issue is just that he needs to take care of business while they still have time before they all get exterminated.
Yeah, no way Eren's going to be okay with that.
No.
It does make you wonder what Zeke said to Eren, though, to convince him to meet up. Like, there's got to be something there.
Well, that's where Eren's motivations come into play, though. I mean, what did Yelena or Yelena, how do you pronounce her name?
I call her Yelena, but whatever.
We'll go with that. What did Yelena say to Eren to make him start taking other measures? What did Eren and Zeke talk about? Did Eren go with this mindset of luring Zeke into his own trap? Are they working together? Or are they not? It's all still a big question mark.
I think they're both on the same mindset that they want to end the curse. Like they want to end things. And I'm sure that Zeke told him about the fact that the founding Titan can alter the alien's body, their DNA or whatever. I'm not quite sure how it works. So I'm sure Eren wants to use that to his advantage to break the cycle of the Titans. But I think that's just for the alien's own good. But I think Eren is still, he knows that the rest of the world sees them as the devils. And I don't think he thinks that can ever be changed, or not within his lifetime for sure. So I'm positive that he's still out to destroy the world, but I think he wants to use the founding Titan's power to help the Eldian people, while Zeke wants to use its power to destroy, to bring an end to the Eldian people. That's what I think at this point.
Yeah, I guess it's unclear if Eren still wants to destroy the rest of the world or his enemies or whatever. I still tend to loop back to the way he was talking to Reiner and Falco about how, he kind of sees and understands now everybody's the same. That maybe if he went with that mindset originally, he's had a change of heart. But I don't know, because we haven't had his point of view since chapter 90. So
I don't think he's like excited or like sees it as a good thing, destroying the rest of the world, but more something that he deems necessary, even though like the rest of the world probably doesn't deserve it either in his eyes now that he's been to the other side of the ocean. But I feel like he probably doesn't have a choice in the matter.
yeah, it's messy.
I think it's interesting in the poll, we did ask the question, like, which is the lesser of two evils, destroy the world or destroy all the Eldians? And I know, Luna, you were super adamant about not giving people an option aside from those two. You had to pick. And at this point,
I think the split is 80-20, right?
right now it's about 75-25. So
Really?
75% of people in the fandom so far do think if it's an either or situation, the Eldians need to go, which is incredible because, those are our heroes. That's the characters we've been following. But yeah, 75%, lesser of two evils, is ending the Eldians.
That's sad.
Why is it sad?
It's all, I don't know, it's just either way, it's sad because nobody wins.
Yeah, of course.
Terrible.
I guess less people die if we go the route of destroying all of the Eldians. But I hate it because it's kind of like, and this is what's sad about Zeke's mindset is he's basically just given up. There's nothing we can do. The world's always going to hate us, so let them have their way and just we'll go.
And it's not just Zeke with that mentality. It's Carl Fritz. It's the Tiger
Mhm,
family. It's Zeke.
mhm.
I mean, it's everyone of the people who are in the know, of the characters in this story who actually kind of know the truth. So far, 3 of them think Eldians need to go. The only one we don't know about yet is Eren Jaeger.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have share that mindset. He was going to want his friends and the people he loves and, his race to survive. I'm not sure if he's going to end up using the rumbling in the end or not, or if he still wants to. That's a big mystery. I can see him doing it and I can see him not doing it.
I've seen a lot of complaints about Dinah, people are just very disappointed that she just kind of seemed like a yes man.
Yeah,
I mean, they both believed in their goal.
true. But I always think like people hold mothers to a higher standard. Have you ever heard this story? I did it in like a cultural differences class when I was living in Denmark. My teacher was from Romania and he was telling this story about this girl who was separated from her lover and she asked for help to cross the river to get to her lover. Anyway, like bad things happened. Like the girl did bad things, the lover did bad things, a friend did bad things, but she also went to ask her mother for help, and her mother was like, well, you have to make your own decisions on what is the best thing to do. And then we had to decide as a class who was the worst person in the story. And a lot of people said the mother was the worst person in the story. So there was cheating going on, murder, but the mother who didn't give the child any advice, she was the worst person according to some. That really shocked me, but I think that was also people from like cultures where like the maternal figure is put in like a higher regard.
I've seen so much criticism for her, and rightly so. I mean, but yeah, so much more. I think she disappointed people. People expected better of Dinah Jaeger.
I guess I expected her to be just like Grisha, so I wasn't too surprised.
I think she was better than him.
When she was dying on the wall, it wasn't, I can't believe we did this to Zeke. It was, I'll find you wherever you are,
Yeah, she very much was just devoted to Grisha and the ideals that they had and stuff. Granted, she is the one who kind of defended Zeke after the training session, but she was pretty much on board with everything.
I don't think she was as bad as Grisha. I think out of the two, Grisha was definitely the worst. But I think there was a lack of affection towards Zeke the entire chapter. We never really saw her hug him or hold him.
She did tell Grisha, like, when he was getting upset and angry with Zeke, to like be like, he's just a boy, he's trying his hardest, we'll find some other way to do the plan. But I think that's as motherly as she gets in protecting him.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, the scene with the grandparents is such a contrast because the grandmother has her arm on him. She's touching him. She's, comforting him. It's nice. I keep thinking that Zeke was loved. He had love. His childhood was horrible, but he had people who cared about him. And yeah, it sucks that his parents were who they were. But I mean, my opinion is that Zeke is a psychopath. That there probably was maybe, I mean, you hate to put real world situations here, but what made other characters stronger made him snap, and he snapped.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it understandable in a certain degree? I mean, his parents indoctrinated him. Then you had Tom Xaver, who was manipulating him. And then you had his grandparents, while loving and kind, indoctrinated him from the other side.
If anything, that made him more aware. He's one of the few characters in the story who kind of had a worldview, who saw both sides. In some ways, in a young mind, that would be hard, but it's not entirely a disadvantage to know that the Kool-Aid Marley's feeding you is poison, or that the Kool-Aid your parents feeding you is poison. I mean, Zeke did have a lot of people giving him a lot of different stories.
Mhm.
Okay, his parents were awful, but then he has Tom Xaver say to him, yeah, your parents suck. They never loved you. They're using you.
That's what gave me like the grooming vibes. What grown man tells a young child, your parents never loved you?
And that could have been one of the things that made Zeke kind of get into this mindset. Well, my parents didn't love me, and the rest of the world doesn't love me. So really, all he had was his grandparents who showed him that love. But they've also got their own issues.
Yeah.
Okay, monkey toy. What do you guys think?
It can't be a coincidence, right?
I'm not sure what to think.
Me either.
Also, the toy box, that's something from Eren's dream, right? The box with all the toys in it that was like scattered all over the floor.
I heard that. Is there any confirmation that that's similar?
I'm not sure. That's what I'm asking.
Are we talking about the anime only opening that shows the toys?
I believe they are. I'd need to pull up a screenshot, but I remember recognizing them, and they're sitting all disoriented, like they are in Aaron's dream. I remember there's like a clown toy. I remember that being there. The only one that wasn't there was the monkey toy, but
True. Yeah.
there was that little like ball hammer toy, some others. I don't have the picture in front of me, but I'm like 90% sure it's the same one from Aaron's dream in episode 1.
So anime only Eren's dream.
Yeah.
So this chapter really contains 2 nods to the anime. It has the toys, and then it has the S2 ED panel.
Oh, with the Titans approaching the city from the water.
Yeah.
Huh.
Say I think Isayama has kind of started to intertwine his manga with some of the changes they made in the anime. I know that the fight in Stohas, all the changes there, I kind of see some similarities with that to like Aaron's mindset in Liberia, for example. So I think he's taken some inspiration from the anime or has communicated with them pretty early on about this stuff.
Because I know people have written meta in the past about the toys in Eren's dream, and I always dismissed them because it's anime only. But yeah, with Isayama, I don't guess you can necessarily do that. Anime only sometimes turns into, surprise, it's in the manga now.
Yeah, well, and he also retconned Armin's parents' backstory because originally they were sent out with everybody else for the, little population control issue they had, but then later he wrote in the manga about the air balloon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can forgive little retcons like that because they don't like have a huge impact on the story, and I can also imagine those things aren't like completely thought out from the beginning.
I think it's just something fun that he adds just because, he knows how seriously we take this, and it's probably fun for him. When he had the chance to work in the history book and to include the season 2 ED animation, it was probably his way of thanking them and also showing how much he enjoyed their work by incorporating it into his work. I don't think there's any deep meta meaning there. I don't think it was planned. I think it was just maybe more his chance to acknowledge that and give them a little extra attention.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that wraps everything up concerning like Zeke's childhood and his not so master plan. So the discussion that kept the fandom going in circles, are Zeke and Levi alive or not?
Zeke is definitely alive. He only got blown into 2 pieces.
Yeah, we've seen. I mean, like
Only 2?
There were 2. There was the bottom half and the
I
top half.
saw I saw lots of little pieces flying everywhere.
Little pieces,
Well.
but two big pieces.
The key is one of those big pieces has his head and like spinal column mainly intact, so I think we're fine.
Yeah. I think for Levi, he's probably going to be fine, just injured, but I personally don't think he's going to be down a limb. I know that's the big question right now.
Yeah, I think all his limbs are intact. Remember when we saw the cape back in chapter 101 where they thought the cape was tattered? It looks to me like the same effect going on here where he's trying to show motion. I mean, looking at Zeke's hair, for instance, it's kind of got those same lines coming off his body. It's hard to say with Isayama's art style in this if he's trying to hint that Levi's missing bits and pieces or if it's just a drawing style. I don't know. You're the artist, Kasch. What do you think?
I think it's for movement as well. I'm not gonna like totally rule out that he might have like lost like a right hand, maybe. But to me, it looks like he's just trying to convey movement with like the speed lines and everything. I definitely don't think Levi's dead for sure.
Something that the Japanese fandom noticed is that Levi is further away from the blast than Zeke is, even though Zeke is the one who had the thunder spear like pointing in his direction. And this is something that I mentioned too. Right before Zeke reacted, Levi saw it coming. Levi had a few moments to prepare. So I do feel like it's likely that he jumped or somehow got himself out of the way before the blast, maybe buying himself a few extra seconds there.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Someone had pointed out, they posted a picture of Mikasa and her reaction before the blast when Zachary was blown up. And they used the same Japanese text, her and Levi. He used the same Japanese text to indicate, I don't know, shock or whatever they're sensing. So I'm guessing he tried to jump out of the way and probably didn't get the full brunt of the blast, but enough to send him off.
Yeah, I think the blood that we see could also be Zeke's. I don't necessarily think it's even his.
On Levi?
Yeah.
I think it probably is some of his. Like, there's no way with how explosive the thunder spears are that he didn't take some sort of damage. I mean, like, the cart's exploding, there's shrapnel.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's like all to the surface and not like deep internal damage.
Right. I mean, again, after all of this, I wouldn't be surprised if this does take Levi down as like a combatant. Like, at this point now, he's unable to fight because of whatever injury he has because of this. And whether or not it could be a lasting injury too, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to mean like he's lost his hand or something like that.
Yeah, I don't find that satisfying at all.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of agree with Kasch on this because Levi at this point, his power is so, it trumps everything, right? I mean, he's met Zeke several times. He's defeated Zeke several times. This feeds into that whole argument, is Levi too OP? No, Levi is not too OP, but he is OP. You know, if he's forced into a secondary role just to see what happens with the other side, it might give a different chance of development. Maybe. I don't know. I'm struggling with this one.
My question is if he's permanently out or can't fight, or if he has to fight but can't fight nearly as good, what is it going to serve, like, the plot? What will it serve his character development? What would it serve other characters' developments? Like, Mikasa would have to step up more.
I think that would be good for her, though. She's starting to make that change. Like, she's seeing the changes in Eren, and she's struggling with her own bond with him. I think it will make Mikasa stand up more as a character. I think it'll put a lot more into Eren's hands, too, because Levi's not there to, you know, pick up the pieces or, you know, beat him down if he's going the wrong way. It really puts a big focus on especially Eren and Mikasa if he's not able to fight.
That's true.
Yeah, that was my thinking too, but you said it better than I did, Kasch. It gives the other characters a chance to have to step up. And with Levi in the battle, the playing field is not even. Levi wins.
Is it really even, though, when they're against an entire nation, like, army of people?
If and when the Wall Titans are unleashed, nobody's going to win that one.
That's how I feel too. I mean, like, Eren has the trump card right now if he can get to Zeke or a Titanized Historia, I guess. But like I said, that's why it puts so much more on him. And I know Levi's a good fighter, but I mean, Levi's not going to do much by himself against, you know, like the armies of Marley and Eastern nations and all the other nations of the world that are all coming to invade. Like, he's just one guy. There's got to be something bigger, overarching, but
Yet his role would be obviously keep Zeke in line, and possibly a lot of us thought we would see him battle with Eren.
Mm-hmm.
And in a one-on-one combat against Eren, in a one-on-one fight against Zeke, I mean, Levi wins. I don't know about a one-on-one fight with Eren. I think that would be that would be a lot of fun to see. If that's what this is preventing from happening, like an obvious win, then that would be interesting.
I think something else that would be interesting from this is if Levi isn't able to fight, like, instead of having like a physical confrontation with Eren, is if he needs to actually talk him down, which would be a change for how Levi normally has to approach conflicts. Like, because I know he's a more violent character.
And see, I've always been in the camp that an actual physical fight wouldn't break out between them, but that he would definitely confront him verbally.
Mm-hmm.
So I think either way, that's bound to happen. I can accept if he has to step back to let the other characters shine, but I guess it'd be disappointing for me to have, like, your main action guy out of the final climactic battle. But I get where you guys are coming from.
I mean, we do have really cool Eren powers now. He's got like 3 of them.
This is true. I really can't wait to see the Warhammer Titan in action.
Right?
I think it's also the fan favorite, the Warhammer Titan. So I think most people are looking forward to seeing Eren use it. Because Warhammer Titan is apparently the best Titan.
It's the coolest. It's the last one, and it's the coolest.
The real reason Zeke is suicidal, he did not get the best Titan.
The best Titan, no.
I can't believe that typo. Of all the typos this month, that one was,
Yeah.
I will inherit the best Titan. Poor Zeke. He didn't even get the best Titan. He got the stupid monkey Titan.
Let's see, in what place is the Beast Titan even?
That's right,
I
because
mean,
you turned the typo into a poll question. What happened with
yeah,
that one?
yeah. Of course, the car titan is dead last.
Oh, poor Peak.
Let's see, and then Jaws is second to last.
What?
Poor-
I take offense.
I like the Jaw Titan.
Okay,
He looks so cool.
third to last is the colossal. Poor Bert. He's so iconic, but he only has 4.8% of the votes. And then with 4.9 is the Beast Titan.
I'm surprised that he's not below like the Colossal at least. And then Warhammer's at the top, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Like Eren has all the coolest titans because the Warhammer is in the first place, second place is the Founding Titan, and third is the Attack Titan. So Eren is like super cool, triple cool.
Yes.
I know, Heidi, you're the Eren guy here. Do you think he'll get the cool executioner's mask?
I think he will still look the same. I kind of don't want his appearance to change, to be honest, but I don't think he'll. It seems like it's kind of like you have a primary Titan, and those are the traits that you pick up on. And I don't know. It's possible he could get that executioner mask look, but I'd prefer if he just stayed the same, honestly.
I'm kind of curious though, because I mean Reiner had like the other Titan form. It'd be interesting to see if something like that does end up happening.
Yeah.
We have so many incarnations of Eren. There's Hobo Eren, Man Bun Eren, and now we'll end up with all different incarnations of his Titan form. Okay, chapter predictions, guys. What are you expecting, hoping, dreaming about next chapter? Kasch, what about you?
You know what I'm hoping for next chapter.
Well, go ahead and say it.
No, I would really, really, really love to see what the Warriors are up to, obviously, but I would like to see as well, like, the outcome of this explosion. And then I also really want to see what's going on with Eren. Like, he's such a big question mark for me right now. I want to see them, like, arriving at Shiganshina. I'd like to see what all the other characters are doing. This was the end of the volume, right? This chapter?
Correct.
So the next one will be maybe more exposition or something, setting up for this final battle. Yeah, I'll still hold on hope. I want to see the Warriors, at least for like a panel or two. Please and thanks.
What about you, Heidi?
I don't know. I don't know about predictions at all. I'm going to totally agonize if we don't get to see the outcome of the explosion, because I don't want to be hanging on Levi's fate for like 2 or 3 chapters at all.
Knowing Isayama, he probably will.
Oh, I'll be so mad. But I do agree it's probably going to be an expositional chapter, but I am hoping that we can at least get a glimpse of the Survey Corps, since they're still hanging out in a cell, and I really want to know what Mikasa is thinking. So that's a big one for me. And then of course Eren's point of view, but I'm not getting my hopes up for it.
It would just be nice to see what else he's doing. Like,
yeah, that would be cool to see where he's heading, or if he's left, or
Well, we know what he's doing. He's lounging casually without his shirt on.
true Jaeger style.
I need him to stop doing that.
Yes, I need him to stop doing that too.
Yes.
What about you, Luna? What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping the next chapter will open with Eren and Gabby having tea next to the lake in Shiganshina. I just want to see them interacting together.
I want to see them interact too.
And I hope she has like her old hairstyle back, also the bun. That would just make it funnier for me. But
Same hairstyle.
I'm not saying it. You're not going to trap me into saying it.
so they can be twinsies.
No, don't say it.
By the way, if Levi is missing his right arm, he can be twinsies with Eren. So
Yeah, he and Eren get Erwin. No, listen to me talking like you. Yeah, he and Erwin get matching scars. I don't think Isayama's going to do it. There's no. I mean, why have 2 characters lose their arms? I don't know.
yeah,
It's repetitive and boring, in my opinion. He clearly has both of his legs, so that's out of the
yeah.
question.
And it's also a matter of perspective. I mean, he could have all of his limbs intact easily.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got a facial injury or something, but not his eye, because that would be repetitive.
Oh, that would be cool. Burns, scars.
Mhm.
I could
Yep.
go for it. Ooh.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted eye patch Hanji, and I got that. Now I want, like, I guess I've read too many fan fictions where Levi's like disfigured or burned, or I could go for that. That would work for me.
Be like the Prince Zuko version of like Levi.
Exactly. Scars do not harm someone's appearance. They are, They work.
I think if it's drawn, yeah, it's never ugly, right? It's never off-putting.
Well, I always love how Levi looks with blood all over his face, like when he's attacking and he's like covered in Titan viscera, and he's got that look. So I would imagine if he's been, yeah. I'm gonna stop talking about this now, actually.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Time skip Levi, I wanted the ponytail. I wanted the time skip Levi. We were expecting a change in character design, and it made perfect sense that Levi looks exactly the same because that's just Levi. So if he's forced to change how he looks, I think I would be okay with it.
Well, either way, if he's injured and he has to sit out, I think it's a better way to handle it like this than as opposed to the end of the female Titan arc and the
He like hurts his leg.
castle. Yeah. Like, oh, my ankle hurts. I can't do anything now, even though I'm super OP. Like, I get that he had to sit out of the story, but how Isayama handled that was not great.
Yeah, it was bad.
So-
He just became like an accessory, or he just stood there the whole time. It was almost like reinserting Sasha into the story after chapter 36 in the anime, just to kind of put her in there as a body. It just didn't work for me.
I mean, it would have been better if he had been sent off like to a mission in the, I don't know, north or wherever. Like if he had to be in another location physically and he couldn't participate because something else was going on plot-wise.
Well, the injury kind of adds to Mikasa's development too, though, because she had to take on more of a role in Stohas with his absence.
No, I understand that he had to be absent. I'm just saying the reason why was kind of it.
I'd say for Mikasa, though, she kind of had to deal with that mental consequence of, wow, I'm the reason that our strongest soldier is hurt. That's on me. It adds to her development, even though the anime kind of robbed it from her. But she has a moment where she reflects on that in the manga. I agree, it didn't necessarily have to happen.
Had to be an injury that was like minor enough to keep him from being completely crippled.
Yeah.
But also major enough that he couldn't participate in the fights. Sprained ankle. Done.
I do have to love how conveniently Isayama drew the river in that panel, and Levi heading directly for the river. Like there's no question that he's going to land in that river.
Yeah. Who's going to find him? That's more interesting, I think.
Ooh.
I'm interested in that too.
And the water's moving very fast.
Yeah. Well, the question is it a river that originates from the mountains and goes towards the sea, or is it a river that originates from the sea and streams inwards?
Does that happen?
Where's the upstream? That's what or downstream. That's what I want to know.
That's how it works.
Oh, we know there's a river that goes through Shiganshina, so that's a possibility.
It would help if we knew where they were heading, which apparently we'll never know. Don't you hate it? All of our theories. The big theory last month, where is Levi going? Where is he taking him? Guess what? That didn't matter.
I mean, they could still be close. And now Zeke would have free reign with Historia, maybe.
I was gonna say, that's the theory I like the most, is that he was taking Zeke to Historia to be like, all right, we're doing this. Sorry.
Yeah, I was totally ready for that one too. I mean, I loved the Ragako theory, but I liked the Historia one even better.
Well, he did say he was going to end up in a stinky mouth of a Titan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me believe that Connie's mom is still around.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Because what other Titan do they have left?
Heidi, have you not heard the Ragako theory?
I guess I haven't. I didn't see that one.
Okay, it was the theory that Levi was taking Zeke to Ragako to feed him to Connie's mom as a temporary stopgap measure. Yeah, it was kind of cool.
That's kind of cool. The Titan thing, he might have been intending still to just find a random Jaegerist to feed him to also. But going to Historia's farm could have been interesting development.
Guess we'll never find out.
Nope.
Guess not, guys. It wasn't important. Sorry. 1 whole month of thinking about this. And guess what? We have too much time to think about these chapters, y'all. Okay, did we have anything else about the chapter we want to discuss?
I cried a lot.
Heidi, which part of the chapter broke you?
I mean, all of it, but I don't know. It was just seeing Zeke's childhood made me really sad, and the idea that everybody uses him, that made me sad. But yeah, also just like with Levi's condition hanging in the air, and I'm very attached to him as a character, so.
I'm attached to Levi too, but I am not worried at all. Like, I'm -% worried.
I'm I'm not worried about him either. It's just, where is he going to go? Who is he going to end up with? And what kind of interactions is he going to have from now on? And that's kind of what I'm agonizing over. But I think most of what made me sad in the chapter definitely revolved around Zeke and how I feel about him as a character.
What about you, Kasch?
Like a part of the chapter that hit me.
Yeah, what was your favorite part or that got you? What in the chapter affected you most?
I mean, there's that one scene after Zeke's been kicked out and after like Grisha and Dina pretty much confront him in the hallway and say, you can do this, you're our child, we know we can count on you, and he goes back. I feel he's got so much strength to do that, and then as he's running, he's in last place, he turns, sees his parents who just like look terrified and then look away from him. It's just so sad. You can tell he's trying his hardest to please them, and nothing he does is enough. That was really sad for me.
The scene with him crying in bed is really heartbreaking.
Yeah, Luna insisted we add that one into the poll. I had deleted it, and she put it back in.
Yeah, that's what my choice for like the most memorable, but also the most gut-wrenching part of this chapter. So
there's nothing worse than overhearing your parents talking about you, fighting about you, and especially when you've disappointed them.
Well, that wraps up our manga discussion. After a break, we'll be back and we'll be discussing some news that we got at the beginning of February and also some questions you sent in for our two guests. See you in a short while. Welcome back. Let's start with the trailer that dropped on the 2nd of February, my birthday. I was very, very happy with my birthday gift because I finally got to see Reiner again. How did you guys enjoy the trailer? Heidi?
I was screaming. It was the first thing I saw when I woke up, that there was a new trailer, and I was so excited, especially because of the music, and I'm a huge Sawano fanatic, so hearing a new version of the Attack on Titan theme song playing in it, with that high note hitting while Eren's going over the wall, I was in heaven. It was great.
Yeah, it sounded really, really good. I don't think I even noticed that it was a new version, a new rendition. But
Same,
yeah,
much more hardcore version.
Right.
Yeah. How about you, Kasch?
I loved it. I'm so excited. This next arc's one of my favorites, so and I think that's true for a lot of people that are into the manga. So I'm looking forward to it so much, and the animation looks incredible so far.
It does. To me, it reminded me more of the season 1 and 2 animation than the first part of season 3, but maybe it's just me.
It didn't remind me of season 1 so much because they used those really thick lines, but it did look a lot like the season 2, I think. And I liked the animation during season 2 for the most part. I mean, there were some iffy parts, but for the most part, it looked really good.
The setting has the same feel as it did with the Reiner and Bertolt reveal in episode 6 of season 2.
Yeah, that overcast. For some reason, I always imagined all of this happening at sunset, but I kind of forget that this arc starts at dawn, and I'm wondering how, how as like the day progresses, as the arc goes on, how the art style will progress, and I mean like the color theme and everything.
Yeah, well, we can see by Serum Bowl, it's like the orangish yellowy kind of green sky look to it. So
yeah, from sunset or sunrise to sundown.
Yep.
Oh, I'm so hype. The one part of the trailer that I couldn't help just like chuckle at was Levi like riding on top of the horse. It's just...
I immediately knew that it was a change from the manga just to make him look more cool, but it just made him look so ridiculous, in my opinion.
I think when, like Heidi, you were saying a little earlier, once it's actually, we see it in the episode and it's not just like isolated by itself in the trailer, I'm sure it will look fine.
It'll look different. It's probably he's getting on top of the horse because you can see the other Survey Corps members doing it around him. And then he's probably just on it briefly before he shoots off. But it looks funny in the trailer.
It was an interesting clip to choose.
Yes, I've seen lots of fan art of like him slipping off of it or something. So it's been fun.
I also thought he looked a little bit like scrawny compared to like the earlier seasons, which kind of added to him looking a little bit weird.
He looked a little thin, but I'm guessing it's just because it's an action shot. Because when you pan out, they look thinner.
We'll see. I hope it will
We'll
look
see.
better in
We'll
the
see.
episode. Yeah.
They have time still.
Yes.
I mean, isn't the reason why it's coming out in April because they had production delays?
I think so. And I also heard that they hired the team from season 2 back.
I think I heard something
they
like
brought-
that too.
So I don't know. Were they like not pleased with the work that the team did on season 3, or couldn't they keep the staff on for part 2 of season 3? I don't know.
Yeah. I know animation stuff in Japan is a disaster right now, so
Mhm.
Yeah.
Production schedules can be really difficult to keep up with, and then there's just like this
Mhm.
coming and going of all these different animators. If things get behind, it's just hard to catch up. So I mean, I can see why they waited. We didn't want something like at the end of season 2 where we ended up with like a bunch of CGI horses and the derp horse, stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean, there was definitely some good animation in those last few episodes, but you could tell that by that point they had really been struggling. So I'd much rather they took this break and now we're going to have much more consistent animation. And like the parts that are in the trailer, I mean, yeah, Levi on top of the horse is a little funky, but like Eren jumping over the wall, all the close-ups of the characters, Reiner getting slashed, it looks so incredible.
It really does. I'm really looking forward to it. Although I did like the character design of season 3, part 1 a little bit better. I'm excited for the action scenes because when he's like sliding underneath that gate with his 3DM gear, it looks so good. That's something that I really missed about season 2, though. Like, I thought the 3DM gear animation was a little bit lacking, especially when at the end, when Historia did her spin compared to season 1. I think that's why the Trost arc is still one of my favorite arcs, just because it looks so spectacular and something that translates to the small screen far better than in the manga.
I felt like season 1 had this like weightiness to it. Like it has all those thicker lines, and it definitely had production issues. Like going back and watching it compared to season 2,
Yeah.
like you can really see where they struggled. But I agree with you that some of the action shots during Trost did look better, like than Historia's like flippy thing at the end of season 2. It just had this weight to it that made it feel like, yes, this is incredible, but also like you can really tell like how hard the character's working to like make these maneuvers. I'm sure we'll see that more in the second part of season 3 here too, because there's a lot of 3D maneuver gear. I mean, we can already see it too. Like I feel like there are parts that we've seen that exemplify that. Like Eren going over the wall just looks incredible. It's probably one of the best animated parts of the series so far.
I'm so excited.
I can imagine.
There's so many cool parts coming up. Heidi, is this like one of your favorite parts of the manga as well?
I used to really dislike it actually, but that's when it was currently, still publishing, and I thought it was going really slow. I have this issue with every arc, so it's whatever. But I went back and reread it recently, and it's actually I would easily put it in my top 3. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I think just with it coming out monthly, it makes it a struggle, and especially with an arc like this, where like every single chapter there's something that like one of your favorite characters is in dire danger. You have no idea if they're going to be okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of cliffhangers. Mm-hmm. The monthly releases in general just make it hard. I had this issue with the Marley arc also, but going back and rereading that, I feel a lot better about it too. And I'm sure I will with this current arc, because I also feel like this one's going too slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to Return to Shiganshina. It's got a lot of action, and we didn't get a lot of that with the Uprising, so I'm looking forward to seeing some of that kind of come back again.
Yeah, it will be good. Because for me, I kind of suffered through Uprising to get to Return to Shiganshina because it's my least favorite arc.
Same.
But yeah, I'm excited. We didn't get to see any of the other Titans in the trailer, though. We didn't get to see Bertolt as a colossal Titan. We didn't get to see Zeke in our card form.
I'm guessing that they only used the animation for maybe the first 1 or 2 episodes, because they probably don't have it animated out too far yet. So that's probably why we didn't get to see Bertolt or Peak.
I think they might even hold back on Bert too when it comes to some of the promotional material, like before the series comes out, because I mean his appearance during the actual fight is kind of a surprise to everyone. Like at that point, all we've seen is Reiner, and then I think the Beast Titan shows up with all the other Titans. I gotta remember like the series of events, but
Yeah, we mainly see just the Beast Titan throwing stuff. You got Reiner, and then the Beast Titan, transforms
Mhm.
Eldians that are with him into Titans, and then eventually he throws the barrel with Bertolt in it, and there he is.
Sorry, this is the arc that I like really started to like Reiner and Bert as characters. Like probably when everyone else started to hate them, I really started to like them. So I'm hoping that like season 2, this gives folks more of an insight into their characters as well that are like anime only. So it'll be interesting to see like the reactions on Reddit and on Tumblr and everything.
I'm curious how it will play out because I remembered the Utgard arc. I really disliked that when I first read it, but then I saw it animated and I loved it, and I also loved Ymir after that. So I think some things are just better when they're animated and you have the voice acting and all the emotion that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. And it's so much clearer because you really have to focus. It's not like the manga where you can just like honestly you can speed read and like miss a panel or something as
Yeah.
you're like going through.
True. What are you most excited for in the upcoming arc?
Go ahead, Kasch.
Honestly, like any of the scenes with Reiner. I love the scene where they're on top of the wall drinking coffee with Zeke. His conversation with Bert there is like one of my favorites, and I like all of the characterization Bert goes through in this arc. But like honestly, like seeing Reiner get like the crap beat out of him, I love him so much. But it's also really cool.
I'm really, really dreading the part where he's growing his face back. I really don't want to see that animated.
But doesn't his like transformation animation look really cool in the trailer?
It does. But I'm going to fast forward through that part I just mentioned. I don't want to see that with like sound effects and everything. I'm good.
The Mars Attacks alien face.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm most looking forward to the basement reveal because that's what really sold me on the manga, actually.
Oh, I'm super looking forward to the basement, the ocean, that stuff.
The Saren Bowl I really disliked it, how that all played out. So I was like, the basement reveal better be good. Otherwise, I'm dropping this series. But luckily, it turned out to be really, really good.
I'm actually really looking forward to the Serum Bowl. I've grown to love that chapter a lot. I've probably read it more than any other chapter because the conflict in it is very, I don't know. It seemed really dramatic to me at first, but after like seeing where the story has gone since then and all the thematic importance to that scene, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the anime team handles it.
The little previews that we got at the end of the first part of season 3, like it's going to be intense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that they ended up showing that during the ending because otherwise this wait would have been unbearable.
Oh, it's a good way to keep people who haven't read the manga strung along too, because they need to know what happens next.
Mhm.
So
yeah, what's causing this? And I think they're going to be able to give it that like the heaviness that scene deserves. That part was really difficult for me because I just gotten into the fandom and obviously Bert gets just decimated. So he was he was like my favorite character, and then he just gets eaten. But I just hope that they handle it a little bit better.
yeah, I don't think Isayama handled it the best way.
It was very painful. I mean, it was a painful time for everybody like through that. Like there was a lot of strong emotions.
Oh yeah, it tore the fandom to pieces for a while.
I missed all of that. I joined right after that. So
You're very lucky.
yeah. So the trailer was the only news that we really were excited to discuss. So I want to move on towards the questions we got from our listeners for two guests. But in the meantime, some things have happened. It's 2 days later now that we're back. Mom has joined us again. She went missing for the trailer discussion.
I missed
Where
it.
did you go?
This entire podcast, I think we need to come clean about what a disaster this particular podcast has been. We started out an hour late because of your microphone, because you got too aggressive playing Kingdom Hearts and trashed your new microphone. What happened next? Kasch lost power.
Yes.
Heidi's laptop died.
And then because we were pushed back so late, I had to leave. And now we're recording today to finish things off. And I literally have to be in my car in, an hour to head to Washington, D.C. for KatsuCon to pick up a friend from the airport. So everything has just been like chaos.
Yeah, it certainly has been. And I actually posted a tweet to ask if the podcast was cursed, if you were cursed, or if I am cursed. The results are that with 19% of the vote each, you and I are cursed. 25% of all respondents said the podcast was cursed, and the majority of the votes with 37% said everything's cursed. You, me, the podcast.
The only evidence I can give to counter that is that last month when it was just me, Puppet, and Reiko, things went flawlessly. So
Okay,
just keep that in mind, Luna.
You know that things don't always work out well for Reiko and Puppet. So I think you kind of negated each other's curse somehow.
Two negative curses equal a positive. Yeah. Maybe that's it. Anyway, we really appreciate this month, Kasch and Heidi putting up with 4 different recording sessions now and all the absolute chaos that went into it.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for putting up with us.
You're fine.
Yeah, we made it. We did it.
Well, not yet. We still have to get through the guest questions. So don't curse it, Kasch.
Well, okay. I'm not saying anything.
So let's start with the first question we got. This one was from Puppet, and he asked if we have a favorite poll question from the past, or maybe the most surprising result from a specific question. Kasch, what was your favorite poll question you've done so far?
I hear the laughter in your voice because you know my answer.
I do.
What chapter was that? That was chapter 99?
I think it was 99.
We did a question because I love Reiner, and it was like, which face of Reiner's is the most attractive? And then we just included the one of him like bent over with his butt in the air. And I was dying. It was so stupid and so funny. That's my favorite question. That was hilarious.
Well, that was my favorite too. I think it was just me.
It was just you and me
working on the poll back then. And we laughed so much about that. And we really stressed about it. Like we went into various Discords and we're like, do we do this? Like we were nervous.
Is this too much?
That absolutely is my favorite question as well. Not only because it was just so funny. And your reaction, Kasch, you just I think that's the first time I've seen you get really excited about a question.
Oh man, it was ultra ridiculous. And so it was just too much fun. It makes me laugh thinking about it.
Do you remember which Reiner ended up being one that was chosen?
I do.
Of course you do.
It was Reiner. It was the little flashback scene where it's like Eren menacingly following them in the background and Reiner with the 4 kids.
Oh, that's right.
That's a good panel.
I remember too what was so fun about that one was I think you showed 6 Reiners for people to choose from and like debating which of the 6 Reiners, like just trying to come up with the most handsome Reiner in the series. It was a lot of fun.
I like that question. And then what was the other one? There was another one where we asked where it was like something about like opinion on the poll or something. And then like the like final one was one poll maker who's too obsessed with Reiner. I'm like, okay, valid. That's me. I can't remember what question it was though. I think it was around that same amount of time. I went a little crazy and I apologize to everyone who got annoyed by that.
Originally, the poll was just me, and it was just because I was curious. But when the Marley arc started, I was not on board with the Marley. I wasn't into it back then. I am into it now. I love these guys now. But I just think the poll would have been so boring if we hadn't had somebody just absolutely gaga over the Marley characters.
And there we are.
Yep, worked out.
It did.
So what about you, Heidi?
My favorite poll question? I don't know. It's hard because I was thinking about it, and I'm trying to remember what stood out the most to me as far as what I guess entertained me the most. I always like it when we do the Kodansha typos.
Yeah, those are really fun.
Those are always great. The first one that we did when they had like tea diplomacy and kept repeating the phrases over and over in different word bubbles. Those were my favorite. I also remember having a lot of fun with the. I think it was Eren and Reiner, and we asked who did it better, Eren's baby got back or Reiner's chocolate bar abs.
Oh my god.
And that one cracked me up a lot.
Oh, it's so funny. I like that Puppet asked this question, probably looking for something like a serious response. But
Oh yeah, there's
all
no
the
serious.
no, the funniest questions are they're like definitely the most entertaining for us. All right, Luna, how about you?
I don't know if I have a favorite question. I always like it the most when people like the blurbs that I write for the results, and I see them posted in the Reddit threads. Like the question where we asked where Gabby and Falco were going, and then one of the options was to Historia's farm, and I wrote a blurb that said that she would end up with 2 more unwanted children. People seem to like that, so then if people think it's funny, then I'm happy.
I appreciate you not mentioning the one that you wrote that I accidentally deleted that you think that I sabotaged deliberately.
Because we stayed up until like 3 in the morning discussing it, and then I woke up and the poll was done and everything was gone. How am I supposed to take that?
I know. Maybe you and I are cursed. Maybe there's something to it. I'm gonna start looking at our every interaction, trying to decide our upcoming trip to New York together is gonna be that'll be the telltale
Yeah,
if,
if
you
our
know.
planes don't crash, then we're good.
Exactly.
The second part of his question, if there was the most, if you were surprised by a result from a specific question, for me, the only one that really surprised me was the chapter that was called Counterfeit in English, but should have been called like Liar, just saying, where we asked if Armin was lying to Hitch about, what he was doing with Annie. And I was surprised that people thought that Armin was genuine. Like, no, I'm just here checking on her. I'm not creeping at all. Like, for a chapter called Liar, I thought it was very obvious he was lying, but apparently I was the only one. And I also wrote a blurb about that, but you guys deleted it. So
Wait, what do you mean we deleted it?
there was a blurb where I mentioned, how do you guys think he's lying in a chapter called Liar? And one of you guys deleted it, which is probably for the best because I don't want to set, like half the fandom off. But
Did you write that in a comment?
no, in a blurb.
That was parentheses. I remember seeing.
Oh.
I didn't delete it though. Wasn't me.
I
It's
didn't delete
very
it either.
quiet right now, so I don't
It
know.
must have been Heidi.
I don't remember.
No, it's fine. So we didn't stay up until 3 in the morning arguing about it, so it's fine. Don't worry.
I think we should mention too the poll process because anyone who takes this seriously just needs to take one look at our Word document. I mean, we open up a joint Word document in Google Drive and we all just start typing. And sometimes we, start deleting each other's stuff and screaming at each other and calling each other out on stuff. And it's been a lot of fun. And I know this is our last month with Luna. And I just want to thank you for the last, 9 months have you been working on it?
Yeah, 9 or 10 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to miss you.
Aw, I'm gonna miss you guys too. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how long this manga is gonna continue, so maybe once I'm done with everything, in real life, I can come back. But we'll see. At least you have 2 people extra, so that's good.
Yeah, well, we brought on 3 new. We brought on Reiku and Puppet,
Yeah.
both of whom I know really well. Reiku does the character polls and Puppet is active on Reddit and he's kind of been working on the polls behind the scenes. He's always proofing for me and giving suggestions and I've kind of leaned on him to get that Reddit perspective. So I'm super happy he's joining us. And then Monet's joined us, which is a friend of Heidi's. And I'm looking forward to working with her as well. So the more the better.
And Monet also works on the episode polls?
Yeah, she's helped me with those in the past, so.
Do you want to give us some inside scoop on your episode polls, which will be starting back up again soon?
Honestly, the process is no different than when we do the manga polls, but the episode drops and then I'll open a Word doc and we kind of scurry to think of creative questions or whatever and scream at each other like we do in the manga poll. And then we try to get it up. I think we were trying to get them up on Mondays originally, but that was causing us a bit of stress because we couldn't think of stuff fast enough, so we pushed it to Tuesdays. Then we would close it on Fridays and post it on Saturday, or attempt to have it up by the time the next episode aired anyway. So we might smooth out the process a little more once the anime starts back up, but we'll see what happens.
How many people are working on the episode polls?
I believe I roped in like 4 people with me. Since it's something that's a little more pressing on time, I thought it would be good to have more bodies doing it. I say roped in because really it was me being impulsive, saying, I want to do this. You guys should do this with me. And I just kind of dragged them into it with me. So.
It's a lot of work, though. I don't think people understand how much time we put into these, and have that fast of a turnaround is just, that's incredible.
Oh, yeah. When part 1 was airing, I pretty much my Saturdays, if I wasn't working, was consumed with getting the graphs ready and all that stuff. So it's a bit of work.
I think that's something that I really underestimated as well.
You mean even with the monthly poll?
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
thought, okay, I know it takes some time, but even the first time I did it, I was, oh wow, this takes a lot more time than I originally thought. Just reading everyone's comments and, making sure all the good stuff gets included.
The document that we generate with all the write-ins and whenever we include where people can write in other or additional comments is oftentimes 60 pages. So I think we average probably 40 to 60 pages each time we do a poll of comments that we need to go through. And a lot of those are repetitive, but reading through them all and trying to match them up with various questions. And, we want to include people's viewpoints, but, also try to keep it something positive. And a lot of times the debate of whether or not a comment, while valid, is too contentious or is going to stir trouble. It's hard making those judgment calls every month.
Sometimes the controversial comments are the fun ones, though.
And I do think it's important that we, because there is such a wide variety of responses, we do try and choose, at least when I'm doing my questions, I choose responses that are pro the question or against the question, or just giving a different opinion on the subject.
Well, I was thinking more about the angry ones. We get a lot of
angry
comments
ones
that are really angry about the direction of the story, angry at characters. They're always characters that we don't like or that we feel strongly about. How much of that to introduce? That's always hard for me.
Same.
Yeah, because you want to represent the fandom's opinion, but you also don't want to throw oil on the fire. So
exactly.
Sometimes it can be tough. Usually, if you want your comments to be included, just tone it down. Limit the profanity, and then I'd say you'd have a good chance of seeing your comments in the results.
I have a question for you guys. In the Chapter 108 poll, we included the panel of Reiner pounding the table. And the question was, what is your reaction to this panel? And the choices were, please leave Paradise alone, Reiner, you've done enough damage. Go save the kids before Gabby kills someone. Bring me a picture of the usurper. That was Puppet's edition, by the way. And the last one was, pound me like you're pounding that table. Who's responsible for that last one?
I'm responsible for all of that except for the usurper. Why are you calling me out like this?
Just checking.
What am I supposed to do without you? How are we going to make these polls so pro Reiner when you leave?
You have to pick up the slack.
Okay, we need to take a bet right here and right now. When Reiner is back in the story, who wants to bet that Luna's back in the poll team?
I will bet $100.
How much real fake money are we going to bet on this?
100 Shingeki bucks. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna rope you into it. I'm gonna ask you regardless.
Guess I need to take a break from all social media when that happens. Shall we move on to the next question before more dirt gets brought up?
Yes, we should.
I can't stop laughing at.
Same. I need to calm down a little.
I also really enjoyed the Eren question. I don't remember when it was. We asked his motivations, and the last one was, who cares, he's hot. And 30% chose that option.
I mean,
valid.
Yeah.
It's valid. It's very valid.
I mean, I cannot.
That's as positive as I will get about time skip Eren. At least he's hot.
I'm glad I don't find Zeke hot. If I found Zeke hot, I would have this. It'd be so much harder. My stance would be so much more complicated.
Shall we go on to the next question?
Yeah.
So we got an anonymous question asking you and I what we majored in college. Mom, did you go to college?
I didn't. I did not. I am completely uneducated, but I am curious about your background.
My background. Well, I did a bachelor's in international business, and I'm doing a master's in international business and management, and also in marketing management. And I have tried some other studies throughout the years. I've studied medicine for a while. I studied Italian for a while, so I've done some things.
What about you guys? Did you guys want to chime in on this one, Heidi and Kasch?
I've been to college, but I have no degree because I switched majors like 3 or 4 times and decided I was tired of wasting my money on it. So maybe I'll go back, maybe I won't. I'm content with where I work.
And for me, I got my associate's degree in nursing, and then I went back for my bachelor's, and probably going back for a master's at some point, or a doctorate, depending on what I want to do.
Wow, I have a high school diploma.
It's okay. You and me both, Mom.
It's all good. You had to start small. I had to get my associates first, and then I worked while I did my bachelor's. So
I'm like Heidi. I'm happy where I ended up. You know, it all worked out in the end, and my career path was a little circuitous, but I ended up where I needed to be. So I would like to go back to school someday. I would love to take some writing classes and just reminders about English. Like, someone please tell me how punctuation works because I suck at it.
I want you to take some math classes.
Oh, and math. Yeah.
Because, you wishing me like a happy new year 2 years early, even though the time difference is always 6 hours. I don't know how that happens. How does that?
No, I don't know. I promise. I am like, yeah. I will figure out 6-hour time difference.
Good.
I will figure it out. This is not, I'm just going to get I'm going to put your time zone in my phone so I can just double check every time. And eventually I'll understand what 6 hours is. And then time change will happen and it will blow me away.
Yeah.
Finally, we had Vayer submit a question to us, which unsurprisingly starts out with, where are Reiner's abs and ass? Why do I have to look at flying monkey asses? We could probably stop there for a minute. She goes on to say, okay, but for real, how do you feel about Dina? Grisha was the one who always put pressure on Zeke, but Dina hardly ever defended her own kid. She silently let her husband destroy their child for a dream of their possible future. Heidi K, but she really feels flat as a character, which is disappointing. Also, Luna, do not hide this time. So if you all would like to address the lack of abs in this, I mean, you're welcome to vent and complain about it. You got Kid Reiner.
Yeah, a baby Reiner, one panel. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Isayama's man service has been pretty high as of late on the Eren side. And like one of our last appearances of Reiner was like just shirtless. I can't complain too much. He just needs to be back in the story.
How many Reiner abs have we seen now?
Many. So many. Not as many as Eren.
Okay, I was wondering, what's the ratio of Eren abs to Reiner abs?
Well, I mean, Eren's...
Heidi probably knows. We can duke it out.
How many panels, Heidi? Come on.
Oh, I don't think there's that many.
He keeps losing his shirt.
He does, and I'm not complaining for a minute.
But then for like Reiner, there's that one official art of him that keeps getting put on merchandise.
Oh my god!
Oh, with the shredded shirt?
Yeah, where he's screaming?
Yes.
Why? I
love that one. I have that on a little card. They have little like game cards or whatever, and I have that. I have that one.
That's so funny. I have a pair of pants with it. I have a mug from Hot Topic with it. But why? Why that one picture? It keeps coming up. It's a curse.
Did you say you have a pair of pants with it?
Yeah, I have pajama pants from Hot Topic that have that picture of Reiner on them.
Oh my god.
They're Reiner pants.
Okay.
I think I meant to buy some and send them to Luna, actually. I should buy some and send them to you.
No, I don't want the ugly Reiner.
Don't say he's ugly.
It's a really bad picture.
It's a really bad picture. But I feel like that offsets some of the Eren abs.
I say if we count the uprising, they do it a lot. He's drawn his abs a lot. I was very happy with the enemy.
Well, Uprising was so interesting to me because Eren says nothing. Until the very end, he's bound and gagged for the entire arc, but he's topless. And I wondered if, like, people who really love Eren, if that was okay. Like, did that make up for it?
It's like a mixture between someone please save my son and also redacted. I can't say.
Too spicy for podcast.
The second part of the question was about Dina, how we feel about her. And I agree with Veer that she kind of fell flat as a character to me. And I know a lot of people expressed disappointment about that. And I know we discussed it previously, but I sort of agree. Her focus was Grisha. That's who she loved. I'm sure she loved her child as well, but not much of an example there as far as mothers.
She was more interesting as a smiling titan than as an actual human being. Yeah, I don't know. You can laugh, but is what it comes down to in the end. And I don't know if she never hardly defended her own kid. Like we already discussed during the manga discussion. We saw that panel where she defended Zeke while he was crying in bed. But other than that, we don't see a whole lot of maternal affection towards Zeke, like no hugging, no telling him, things will be better. We don't really see a whole lot of her anyway. Like it seems more Grisha who is leading things and she just happily tags along to everything. She's more a plot device than a human at this point.
I agree. She's basically a plot plug so that Zeke can have the royal blood and open that whole, situation. Very devoted to Grisha. That's about all I can get out of her character.
Yes.
I do wish she'd been fleshed out a little more. I think she does have potential, but Isayama just either didn't have time or didn't want to expand on, her royal heritage or anything else about her besides her devotion to Grisha.
Yeah, and I guess the devotion to Grisha that we're seeing in this chapter really helps explain that devotion after she became a Titan as well. Actually finding him and going to him and eating his new wife.
Ouch.
Good on Isayama.
So, Kasch, I'm very familiar with your work. I have some of it in my studio right now. I'm very fond of it. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your creative process?
I got started in fandom, in SNK fandom specifically, like I think I said in 2016, so about 3 years ago. And before that point, I hadn't really been drawing much since high school because, work and school and everything had gotten in the way, and life in general. So when the story had actually come around to the Shiganshina arc, the Return to Shiganshina arc, I was really inspired and started drawing. And it's been nice seeing the improvement from when I started drawing at that point to now. And I've made a lot of improvements in my art. I pretty much just draw whatever is inspiring me. Sometimes it's like redraws of the chapter panels or funny ideas. Discord's been great because there's lots of different people like in different servers, and it's fun to talk with them and make little comics or, just a lot of different collaborative processes. Haven't been drawing a whole lot recently. Not gonna lie, Marley arc was a huge source of inspiration, so that was really nice. And now that we're kind of past it and the story's slowed down for me personally, it's a little harder to build up that want to draw. But I'm sure once Reiner shows back up, or I've really been wanting to draw Zeke. I just haven't had much time recently because this last chapter especially was really good for me.
Like Luna, I also enjoy your merchandise, and I am the proud owner of, 1, 2, 3, 4 of your charms. I think I've ordered 5 in total. You did the warriors on one side and their Titan forms on the back side, and those were just magnificent.
They turned out really good. And that was my first time actually making something that wasn't just like an art print or something like that. It was really fun to produce them. It was a lot of work to sell them and package them and ship them because I was doing all the work myself on top of my full-time job. Right now my store is closed because it's just too much for me to handle. And I would really rather reopen it when I have some more stuff to put in there. But the creative process behind it was really fun. And it was just really, my favorite part about all of it was they're in like chibi style, right? I really liked trying to take the Titans and make them cute in like a chibi style, especially Peak's Cart Titan, because it's so awkward looking. It's just like a little naked man. So that was definitely really fun to do. And I'd like to design more of those. I just haven't had like the chance or the inspiration to do so yet. So I have made promises that I would do some of the other warriors, and I wouldn't mind doing some of the parody characters either, but part of the whole reason I wanted to make those in the first place is there's no Marley merchandise yet. The anime's not there. And even when it comes out, I know there's probably not going to be as much merchandise of my faves as I would like, especially my little pork bun boy. So it was really fun to make those. And now I have them all on my keys too. I have my keys, I have them on my bulletin board with all my other merchandise. It was fun.
And we'll leave a link in the description to her art blog where you can check out her artwork. And we'll also leave a link to all the chibi keychains because they're really cute and I think you should check them out.
And Heidi, you're one of the busiest people. I remember you're one of the first people in fandom that I met back in 2014. I think you joined in 2013. I mean, you absolutely have been a SNK machine for 5 years.
Yeah, I I spend probably more time than I should here. But yeah, I joined in I think it was about mid-September. I actually resisted watching the series for a long time because I thought it looked stupid. And then I saw a really cracky, I don't know, gift set or something, and it had a song on it, like I don't know the name. It's like da 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 da, and it had this whole like gift set, and I thought it was so funny. I'm like, okay, I'll give the series a try, and I watched the first episode, and it made me cry, and then I was pretty much hooked after that. But yeah, ever since then, my blog's been pretty much at least 90% Attack on Titan, if not more, and I have a lot of side blogs that probably annoys people that I'm everywhere. But I have a lot of side blogs that I run. I, in 2015, started learning how to GIF and make edits. So that's been my primary hobby since I started learning how to do that.
I remember after the No Regrets OVA, you gift the entire episode within 6 minutes of it airing.
Oh, no, that wasn't me. I couldn't GIF yet because I think that was in 2014, but I did pretty much reblog every single GIF set that showed up on my dashboard. So
maybe that was it.
But I definitely, with season 2 and season 3, I would try to get in the first GIF on Tumblr before somebody else could do it.
I remember we were all waiting like, when is Heidi ready? We want the gifts.
I will probably still have that impulse when part 2 starts dropping. It depends on if I have to work that day. Yeah, and sometimes I write fan fiction, but I'm not totally confident in my creative writing, so it kind of just sits there a lot. And I like to write meta because I think breaking down a series and analyzing it and trying to understand the characters is a lot of fun. Sometimes I fail horribly. Most of my theories don't end up being correct, but I try.
So what are all the side blogs you run?
I have a shipping like event blog. Anybody who knows me could probably guess what ship that is. I on 2 separate graphic like blogging websites. I do FYash and Geki, and then recently the team at Attack on Titans invited me, so I took that opportunity. And then I also just have like a writing side blog and various character centric side blogs. I've got the Hobo Eren URL, which made me happy. Once in a while, I'll reblog something on there. It's not as active as I want it to be, but just stuff like that. It makes me happy, so I just do it.
Do you ever sleep, Heidi? That's what I want to know.
Me too.
I actually sleep a lot. I'm always very tired, and I'm always falling asleep. I get off work and I take naps, and then I fall asleep at like 8 o'clock, and then I'll wake up at 10 and can't get back to sleep. And I'm kind of a hot mess. I don't have a sleeping schedule. I just kind of...
You take naps a lot?
I do take a lot of naps. It seems like I do a lot, but I might do less than it actually looks like.
Okay, in the last 5 years, have you ever let your queue run out?
I actually never used to run on a queue. I used to reblog until I hit post limit. I would reblog up to 250 posts a day.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So what is your posting schedule?
I do run my blog on a queue now because it's just easier to do that. I'll go through and like post, and then when I have some time, I'll go through and add them to my queue. Usually it's between 10 and 20. It depends on how full the queue is. But if I'm online and I see like meta or anything like that, I'll reblog it. But I don't sit there and stare at my screen all day like I used to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Back in 2013, it was really, really, really easy to hit post limit because the fandom was way more active back then.
Oh, it was insane then.
And it was all very new to me, and I was very excited, and I would stay up until 4 a.m. just reblogging stuff. So
I missed out on all the good old days. I joined the fandom way too late.
Yeah, I don't mind the fandom the way it is now. It's slower, but there's a lot less drama, which is nice.
So I've heard.
But I do miss seeing all of the really cool cosplays. We had like these voice ask blogs; those were a lot of fun, and just all the I don't know cracky meme posts and stuff like that. I miss that stuff and just the general activity. But it's not so bad now. It's quieter, but it's all right.
Are you still very active on Tumblr with all your side blogs since all the changes happened?
Yeah, I've tried to try out other platforms. I was very upset with the terms of service update with Tumblr. I tried to move to Pillow Fort. It was completely unusable at first. It's usable now, but it's so slow. I have no interest in being over there. I've tried Twitter, but I don't like I don't understand Twitter. And I don't like the character limits. I don't like the whole like you have to just talk in threads. And I'm somebody who needs to when I'm talking about my thoughts, I need to put it in a big long post. So Twitter doesn't really do it for me either. I really don't like Instagram, so I'm not going to go there. I've tried, but Tumblr's pretty much home. It's the only place where I can post graphics and do the things I actually enjoy doing. So I just mainly hang out on Tumblr and Discord.
It's a prison of our own making at this point.
It is.
So I'm going to link your main blog, erensjaegerbombs. Do you want us to link any other of your blogs or just the main one?
Nope, I have all my side blogs on there. So if you want to explore that, that's on my blog theme.
Well, thank you both so much for being our guests. We apologize again for the countless technical difficulties and for recording with us over the course of 4 sessions and 3 days. So you guys were wonderful guests. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you again.
It was a lot of fun to be here.
Yes, it is.
You guys are getting an A+ for me. Thank you so much for doing this over and over and over again.
And for all your help on the poll. I've loved working with all of you over the last, I guess, Kasch for the last couple of years, and Luna and Heidi. I've loved working with all of you.
Likewise.
It's been a lot of fun, yes.
When I hear about how busy Heidi is, I feel guilty for roping her in.
No, I enjoy it a lot. I really do. It's a lot of fun.
I have like guilt for leaving now. Like, you're not human, Heidi. I discussed this a little bit with Kasch, and we think you're like Casey Neistat. You know, like he only sleeps 3 hours a day and then works all day.
See,
I think you're like that.
See, I thought you were like doing the Jeffersonian or whatever, like sleep, where you only sleep for like 15 minutes at a time every 3 hours.
Some days I might.
You're not human, okay? I don't know. I wouldn't function if I had to live like you. I'm sorry. I would die and crash like after 2 weeks.
Maybe I have a secret I'm not telling you guys. I
think that's it. I think that's it. As always, we thank our guests, but we also want to thank everyone who is listening to our podcast. If you would like to support us, please leave a comment. If you're listening on YouTube, you can leave a like, subscribe on whichever platform you're listening. We also have a Patreon and a Ko-fi if you want to support us that way. But if you have any other friends or family who love Attack on Titan and would like a podcast about Attack on Titan, you would also really help us if you could share You Hear Big Girls with them. But for now, thank you for offering your hearts and ears, and see you next month. Bye.
Bye.
We're trying this boss one more time too, so
you're still playing.
I'm still playing this damn game. I can't leave.
No. Gosh.
I can't leave. I abandoned everyone. It's got a time limit on it.
Mom has to
Sorry.
leave soon.
If we die again, I'm leaving.
How much longer?
I'm leaving.
All right.
Because this is stupid. Why are we dying so much?
Kasch, you're addicted to WoW. Stop. We have other things to do.